Hello, my name is Bobby Roberts. I am the minister responsible for finance and operations here at Hermitage Hills. I've been married to my wife Susan for 37 years, and we have 3 daughters from 25 years old to about 30 years old. And we're empty nesters, and one of our daughters lives in the Brentwood area here, and we have 2 grandsons. Her and her husband have 2 sons, and so part of our family life is getting to see them for the first time in a long time. We were in Houston, then in Florida, and they've been here since Chandler went off to college at Belmont. And so now we get to spend time with them. My wife gets to help nanny our grandson, our oldest grandson, and the other one's a newborn. And so ultimately she'll be able to help nanny him too. So it's an amazing time that we have here with them. We also have 2 daughters that live in the New York City area. And all of our girls, they love Jesus. We are so blessed to have daughters who truly love Him. They don't just go to church, they love Jesus. Their husbands love Jesus. They're ministering in their churches. They're ministering through their churches. So that's our family. 3 daughters, 3 sons-in-law, 2 amazing grandsons. So I love golf. If you're in my office, I have some stuff up about golf. I also have a golf ball collection, which is not at the office, of amazing courses I've been able to play over my lifetime when I was in the business world. So I'm not any good at it, but I've been playing for a lot of years, and I'm passionate about it. And one kind of neat thing is my son-in-law that lives here is more passionate, much more passionate about golf than I am. I introduced him to the game when he began dating my daughter, and he just fell in love with it. So that's the thing that we get to do together, is to play golf. My wife loves to garden, so she keeps the gardens in the yard, and she grows vegetables for the first time in our marriage. We have a place where we can grow vegetables and things like that. Well, I say where she can grow vegetables and things like that. So that's kind of her pastime. We do our own yard work, and we like to do that. But my main thing I do outside of work that I love is to play golf. So my story of how I ended up in a church managing finances and operations is really 30 years old. When I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I was part of a church that was about this size, and I was a relatively new deacon. I was chairman of the stewardship team, and a lot of the deacons were getting on to the pastor about how he needed to do better at handling finances and administration. And the way I read God's word, it was the deacon's responsibility to come beside the pastor and to help him out. I came beside the lead pastor and helped write policies and procedures for finances to help him to manage the finances of the church. And it was at that time that I really felt the Lord telling me that in the future I would end up in a role like this. I kind of thought it would be after I retired. I was a banker at the time in the Houston world, was in oil and gas business, and then along that journey, 10 years, 20 years later, we're at a different church, and I began to ask God, is now the time that I can go? And I kept getting this kind of no, really through circumstances. I would look into an opportunity, and it didn't quite work out, and it really wasn't His timing, and I knew it wasn't. And then I went from being a banker to being a CFO. And in that transition, I began to see things I hadn't seen before in the business world. And God began to show me, this is why I didn't let you go earlier. You needed this training. So I was doing that for about 6 years, and was having Thanksgiving celebration with my entire family. I've got 3 daughters, and only one of them was married at the time, and we were at their house here in the Nashville area. And through those conversations, just began to talk about what I thought God was going to do in the future. Then my daughter told a friend, the friend told the pastor reached out to me, and we began to have that conversation. It wasn't the right place for us, even though coming to Nashville was a dream, but it was God's confirmation that now's the time. So rather than looking at opportunities here and there, I just said, God's saying go. And so we had the chance to go, and we began a process of looking for a role that would ultimately lead us here. Took about a year. I actually ended up in a church in Florida doing kind of mainstream ministry, did adult ministry there, was the next gen leader, and also did missions ministry and college ministry, and kind of had all those hats there. And 4 years of that, led to the opportunity to come here. And again, I'm like, God, why'd you do that? This is where I thought I would be, this type of a role. It's what I was trained to do. It's what I had done as a CFO. It's kind of where I thought everything was heading. And interestingly, my heart in this role is to free pastors up to do their job, free ministers up to minister. And had I not had those 4 years of experience in kind of frontline ministry, I wouldn't have understood the impediments that sometimes operations can be to ministers. And so now I had that experience from the President CFO experience, and then God allowed us to make a move to Nashville. We didn't think we'd be able to come until we retired, and we got to come here ahead of time and do the very thing that I thought God had told me 30 years ago that I would do at some time in my future. The most exciting thing to me about what I do at Hermitage Hills, I do the finance stuff, but that's really not what drives me. I want the church to grow. I want to make a difference. I want to be part of making a difference. So I teach a life group and get to co-teach that with Julie Salva, and so I love ministering to people, and I love coming beside the ministers and pastors here at Hermitage Hills to move ministry forward. The role I play is all back office. It's all about moving the ministry forward. It's all about making a difference in people's lives. And so I love the role I get to play in that, both as a frontline teacher, but also as a support to the other ministers and pastors.